Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello and welcome to James Bond Radio's 30 Days of No Time to Die. Today, we're going to be making a visit to Norway, and we're going to be meeting the offspring of Bond, young Mathilde. My name is Tom Sears, and as usual, I'm joined by my good buddy, Mr. Chris Wright. How you doing, Muddy?
Muddy? I'm
Mate,
doing.
I'm losing the plot.
I think we all are. No, I'm doing well, mate. I'm doing well. So, episode 10 of 30 Days No Time to Die. Obviously, end of week 2. Now, this is quite a cool one. So we're heading off to Norway. We're going to do. There's a couple of MI6 scenes we're going to go through as well. Yeah. But Norway is quite good because it starts off, you got a nice little moment, and then it goes into a bit of balls out action. So yeah, it should be a good episode. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Okay, so where do we begin then? You lead us through the action today.
Okay, cool. So basically, we see Bond. He's driving in his Aston V8 to Madeleine's house in Norway. She obviously, last time we left them was your favourite scene in Belmarsh yesterday. Yeah, and obviously we remember Madeleine said, Bond said, "Where are you going?" "I'm going home." So Bond knows that Madeleine's going to be in Norway. So Bond is there, drives up in his V8. He enters the house with his gun just in case, and he's got a bit of a feel of when he went to see Mr. White, actually, you know, how he's going around with the gun. And she said, "Oh, is that for me?" Obviously it's not. Things are fine. They have a bit of a chat. Now he gets there, luckily, like for him, obviously finds out that she's safe, so that's great. He asks her who gave her the poison, and adding that Blofeld is dead. Madeleine doesn't say who it was, but she's obviously clearly happy that Blofeld is dead. And then we get, I know what you were saying in yesterday about the scene in Belmarsh. If that is true, or whatever extent you think that's true, I hope this flips in this scene, because I think Daniel is brilliant in this scene. I think Lea Seydoux is brilliant in this scene. So we get that part where basically Madeleine says, "I understand you are not built to trust people," because he's kind of apologizes. He tells her, "Blofeld told me it wasn't you who betrayed me, it was him." And she said, "I understand you're not built to trust people." And he says, "Neither were you, Madeleine, then we were fools for trying." So I really like this. So there's a bit of, obviously they had an amazing time together, broke up, had time apart, and now they're at that stage where they still can't trust each other, even though they loved each other. And then you get a really heartfelt moment where Bond is basically talking about how he loves Madeleine, how he'll always love Madeleine. Very, very emotional scene, and I really think Daniel Craig nails it. I really do. I think he's great in this bit, and says, you know, I've loved you, I'll always love you, and the only thing that he regrets is putting her on that train and stuff like that.
It's a very heartbreaking scene, isn't it?
Yeah.
I tell you what, man, there's a part of me that feels very uncomfortable when Bond starts talking about his feelings.
I think a lot of people.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I remember even in Casino, which is maybe even the greatest Bond film that was ever made.
Yeah.
I still to this day always feel a bit uncomfortable when he starts giving it the.
You know what I can do with my little finger.
I know. It from me and all that sort of stuff. You know.
Yeah.
I
know what you mean. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, oh fucking hell! Like this is Bond really. Like I don't know, man. Can't you say some like that's a nice little nothing you're almost wearing or something instead? You know what I mean? Like that's it. And it is to see him so vulnerable like that.
Exactly.
It's an uncomfortable view for me in a sense, but it's I think ultimately when we had that talk recently in recent months about Connery and his vulnerability or lack thereof, it's got to be said, man, Daniel right there on a plate, isn't it?
Loads of it. Yeah. I think but I think that's not a bad thing. I know it's different, and I know people always want Bond to be the Superman or the superhero, completely invulnerable and all this. But yeah, you know, I like the fact that they've kind of.
Me too. It's that thing that Connery wished it could be, isn't it? I suppose where in Connery's day it was the super spy, and he got bored of it in the end and was like there was nothing to get his teeth into as an actor. Whereas Daniel
although I did like the scene, sorry, very briefly, in You Only Live Twice, he's got that, well, not invulnerability, but that regret at Aki's death. I think he does that very well. So he has got that, but in terms of it's definitely not to the levels that we're seeing with Daniel.
You wouldn't ever get Sean saying
confessing
things like, "I won't regret anything that led me to you."
Yeah,
you all you get is, "I love you." That's about as close as you get, isn't it?
That's amazing. Yeah. So do you, obviously you find it uncomfortable, but are you okay with it?
Yeah,
like,
I am.
Given
silly,
what's
really,
going on.
It's that thing of like, you grow up with Bond where he doesn't talk about feelings at all, and then all of a sudden you've got Bond who's like, I feel like he's almost like, he could shed a tear or two in this scene, and it's like, oh fucking hell, this is an uncomfortable watch. But at the same time, it is the deep and meaningful, isn't it? So
would you agree that Daniel is pretty decent in this scene?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I really think he nails it. And there's that bit where Madeleine basically said, what's your not weaknesses, but what's your worst trait or something, and he says timing, which is quite good. And then my sense of humor, and they slowly get closer and closer, and obviously end up sort of
snogging,
having a good old loving snog and making up. And then, Tommy, they get distracted by, of all things, a little 6-year-old girl on top of the stairs. I love the little slinky though. I love it. Just it's brilliant. It's a great little moment there. So straight away, prior to this film, did you know about that story thread?
Yes, because that's the one that was tweeted.
Oh god, right.
But then I wasn't against it, because of course that is the Fleming thing.
You only live twice.
You only live twice. It's been a while since I read that one, but if I remember correctly, you've got a showdown with Blofeld wearing a suit of armor in the Garden of Death. Bond escapes on a hot air balloon, falls off the hot air balloon. Bit water's not enough.
Yeah.
Ends up with amnesia. Lives with a Japanese
armor girl
for a year or so, fathers a child, then gets sent to Russia and brainwashed by Smash to kill M. And then he's sent, and then he comes back for the Man with the Golden Gun.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. So
there it is. So it is a thing.
That is true. Yeah. And again, I think it's great. I think, why not? And within the storyline, obviously, it works really well. So we cut back to MI6 briefly. We got M playing with the Bulldog clip again, which obviously quite interesting to see that. And I really like this bit because you see the paintings of the past M's. You obviously Judy, and then you see Robert Brown and everything. And
that was nice. I didn't expect to see Robert Brown.
No,
that did raise a smile for me. It was nice.
Me too, because I think everyone was posting pictures about Judy's M. So everyone knew that was coming, I think. I might have even seen the still for that. I can't remember. But Robert Brown, I remember a few people after the thing saying, "Oh, they should have put Robert Brown up there." And I thought they did. And then watched it a second time, like, look, there he is.
So he's at an angle though, isn't he? You sort of see him from the side almost.
Yeah, but I was so happy as well, same as you, that they put him in it. So it's cool to see that. And basically, Nomi tells M kind of contacts her. Nomi tells M she's on the lead of Logan Ash. And she does admit that Bond gave her that lead, so it's a bit of giving a bit of respect his way. And then we cut back, and we got that moment where this is quite nice. Bond watches Madeleine putting Mathilde to bed, and he's just watching the whole thing. Madeleine closes the blinds, tells Mathilde to close her eyes, and then says, "She's not yours." And I think everyone in the audience had a good little chuckle at that, because everyone obviously was thinking the same thing as Bond. And then he's like, but okay, the blue eyes and everything. And that's a nice little moment. Again, she's not yours. But then the next bit is brilliant. So she says, I have something to show you. And Bond's like, another child? And that's a great bit. Again, really nice bit by Daniel. Great line. And then she shows him obviously a secret room, and he says, what is it with your dad and secret rooms? So Madeleine informs Bond that, again, this is how Bond finds out the backstory of Safrin. So Madeleine informs him that Blofeld sent her father to kill a family, that Safrin survived, and prompting him obviously to seek revenge. And she mentions that the family sort of basically harnessed their own poison, which were used by Spectre, and Mr. White used their own poison against them. And obviously, as we mentioned before in the previous podcast, then Blofeld and Spectre took over the island, which Safin has now taken back. It'd be interesting, how long ago did Safin retake the island? Obviously, we mentioned before he would have needed a lot of financial clout, obviously get an army behind him. He's got all the scientists in, and he's got because Heracles is a new thing, so they would have had the Guard of Death. They would have been able to get the poison extraction from that, but they wouldn't have had the whole factory and the farm. I think that's Safin's doing rather than Spectre's doing. So he must have been there a little while to set up this farm and factory, I believe, in my mind. What do you think?
I'm a little bit curious about how old Safin is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I suppose if Madeleine, is, I mean, what age would you say she is in that pre-title sequence?
Madeleine.
Yeah.
What would you say? 9, maybe? No. Yeah.
Yes, something
10,
like
9,
that.
10, something
I guess.
Like that.
So then,
no, maybe 11, 12, maybe.
Yeah, and then how old is she supposed to be normally? We don't get the amount of years fast forwarded, do we?
No, but I think we tried to work it out before, and it did work out that if Rami Malek was like late 30s, it could still feasibly be okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think he's going to be older than sort of 40s.
Yeah.
And I don't think he needs to be, because with Madeleine's mother, you can tell she's not really one for anything goes, I'd imagine, in terms of stuff like that. So she probably had her quite young. She wasn't that old herself when you look at her. So I imagine it probably wasn't a huge timeline between the two. Obviously you got the 5 years from Bond to Madeleine, and probably maybe if you did 12 years, would you say? If she's 11 and could be 32, 10 years even, maybe.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
if Safin's like late 30s, he could have been 25 when he went to Norway and killed things. So I think it works out.
We got to the bottom of that one, didn't we?
Yeah, just about. Yeah. So that whole bit is pretty cool. And then we get another moment then when Bond is woken by Mathilde, who says that she's hungry, goes downstairs with her, peels an apple. And I do like the bit where he says, "How is it?" And he sort of stands back and sort of waits for the reaction. She's like, "Not bad." And I think that's very, very cute. I do, like, I know some people are not into this whole bit at all.
Yeah.
But for me, I just like it, man. I think it's very, as a father, as a recent father and a family man, as a dad, as daddy Sears.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that side of things?
Yeah, well, it's that thing, isn't it? Where again, it's uncharted territory. That I think that's why it's so uncomfortable for a lot of people. Is it's just like when you think of Bond, you don't think about him being a father to a small child, do you? And it's like when obviously in a bit we get onto the Land Rover chase and all that kind of stuff, and there's little Mathilde in the little car seat in the back. It's kind of like, damn, when I take my little boy into town or whatever, he's doing exactly the same in the back. And it's kind of like, that's too normal life, I think, for a lot of people. Do you know what I mean? Whereas you go to your Bond for escapism, and it's like, it could be viewed as a bit too close to real life in this. Do you know what I mean? For a lot of people. But yeah, it is cute, and it's fun to see him be a little bit awkward around the whole thing, because he would
definitely.
Be,
100%. Yeah.
If you imagine any of the previous Bonds put into a situation like that,
I think Roger would have been a good dad. He would
100%.
He'd be cracking. Yeah,
he would, wouldn't he?
And Pierce, actually.
Yeah,
Pierce.
But I imagine so that scene in New Order Is Not Enough where Dr. Molly Warmflesh comes in after having given him the clean bill of health and all that stuff, and you can see Bond's a bit awkward about it.
Yeah,
I feel like there's that sort of flavor to Bond meeting his child. You know, it's just like it's a bit awkward, of like it doesn't quite know how to behave.
Yeah,
you know, put a gun in his hand,
like
he knows what to do, but when it comes to looking after a child, he's a bit clueless, I guess.
Yeah,
so,
which if you think about his skill set on everything else that he does, this is the one thing that he hasn't got any experience of doing. He has no knowledge of it. M says to Bond, do you know much about gold, or do you know much about, various other things? Bond can reel off a load. Do you know anything about children? And then it's like, no.
Yeah,
so that is cool. But the whole thing about it being close to home is what makes it so pack a punch at the end, I think, which is obviously what they're going for. Okay, so then M rings Bond and Q, M rings Bond. Q says he's found the island in between China and Japan. Moneypenny sends Nomi's location to Bond, who sees it, and it's heading towards where they are. And he said, "Oh, I thought she was tracking Logan Ash and not me." And then Moneypenny says she is. Bond realizes obviously Ash is close to getting him, and asks Q that he needs a plane. Realizes they're in danger, and he leaves with Madeleine and Mathilde. Now, this is an interesting thing. So he's driven there in his Aston Martin V8.
Yeah.
I guess Mathilde could squeeze on Madeleine's lap. Is
it a 2-seater, the V8?
I don't even know if it's got back seats or not. I'll have a little quick look.
Because I'll be honest, that thought did cross my mind of like,
because how much quicker would that be? Yeah. But even if it didn't, surely that they might have done that with the kids in the back.
Hold on a minute, I've got a memory of Timothy sticking the cello in the back.
Yeah,
seats.
I think it has got seats.
Yeah.
So feasibly they could have put Mathilde in the back, or if not, then obviously have her on Madeleine's lap. So why do you think Bond decided to leave the V8 there and take the Toyota Land Cruiser instead?
I think it was probably because of a sponsorship deal. Don't you? I think that was probably his main motivation. Yeah, he's got to be seen to be driving this one because there's a lot of money involved.
Or maybe it's because the child seat is in the other one, and they're a bitch to get out, man. They are a bitch.
Absolutely, yeah. 100.
So that's probably why. Now, go for it.
I've got a question for you. How do you feel about the Land Rover chase?
Okay, I'm pretty down with it, actually. I think so. I tell you what, I love that stretch of road, that sort of arch bridge type area. I think that's great. So they're driving along, they see the two Range Rovers zip past and kind of be like, oh God, I thought they were going to stop. And then just in the rear view mirror, you see them come back over the bridge and like, uh-oh. And then obviously the chase is on, they go off road. So initially it's just Bond and the two Range Rovers, and he ends up toppling both of them basically, doesn't he? And he gets to that point where a helicopter is following him. Suddenly 3 more like 4x4s jump out with these bikes and they fly out of the forest, and they're all chasing him. Yeah. There's not a lot of Bond doesn't really get smashed in the car much, and I thought if there's all this other vehicles, like he could get sandwiched between the two Range Rovers and like feel there could be a bit more suspense there, because if Madeleine and Mathilde are in the back getting shaken and thrown around and there's two Range Rovers smashing them for either side, I think that would be like, whoa. But nothing really that bad happens to them in the van. In their truck.
It reminds me of 2 things actually. First of all, I forget who I was chatting to this about this with. So my brain stopped. It feels weird that you don't see any other people in the cars. So you've got Bond, and then all you see is like the reflection of the glass. You never see anybody at the wheel, nobody else in any of the seats in the cars. So for me, I don't know, I feel a little bit detached from it in a sense, and I get the feeling I feel like it feels more like a car ad. I mean, it is in the grand scheme of things. It's a car ad, isn't it? But like it feels like a sort of promotional video for the new Land Rover Sport. Look how it handles going on rough roads and off terrains and all that kind of stuff. It feels to me like there are some, like there's that section, the first car that he sort of like hoofs off the road. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From there, I feel like it's a bit, I don't know. I don't feel too much peril. I feel like it feels a bit rehearsed to me, like a bit like a scripted chase. I don't feel that, like we always go back to that Quantum chase, don't we? Where it feels frantic and you're like, it's proper white knuckler. For this, it almost feels like a dance of cars, where it's like, okay, this one's going to go over here.
A bit similar to the Spectre car chase, where they're sort of drifting but don't actually smash into things.
Yeah, maybe so.
A little bit. I know, I do agree. I think we'll talk about when they get into the forest in a minute, because that I think is a different story. But with this one, what I would have liked, like we said, maybe the two Range Rovers smash the Toyota sort of from side to side. Maybe even Bond's car topples over but rights itself, so there's quite a few steep banks. Maybe it gets smashed and it does a full sort of 360 and ends up on its wheels but crumpled, and obviously the two in the back are screaming, but there's a bit more going on, and then he has to quickly get out, and there's just a bit more contact going on, I think, is what needed. Or alternatively, like, there's no real gunfire, is there? I mean, there is gunfire, but in terms of like hitting the windows, so like Madeleine would have to duck in the back with Mathilde, like smashing the windows, and maybe even the classic grenade launchers or something out of the helicopter just to get a few explosions, maybe something like that. I do agree with you on that, definitely. I think I don't really
feel the sense of peril. I suppose, when it all balls,
and particularly because it starts off so well with seeing them in the rearview mirror come over that bridge, and you think, oh, here we go, and then you're right. I think that bit definitely could have had a bit more, particularly as we've got Mathilde in the back. You want to as an audience member, you want to feel as if she's threatened, and getting gunfire in the rearview mirror, getting grenades around the place, getting cars smashing into you and stuff, because it's all Bond. It's pretty much Bond that does all the smashing in terms of
it is. I feel like Bond's in control throughout the whole thing. I don't feel like he's ever really.
Do you know what that's kind of a bit like? Not as bad as, but it's a bit like Spectre after the drill scene, where he goes out and he's on computer mode and shooting people up, and he's in no peril, and he's just been drilled in the head. I mean, that pees me off so much. But it's a bit like that, not to that extent. So I agree. I think we needed to see more sort of smashing, more sort of gunfire and everything like that. But I will say, once it cuts to the forest, things change. Okay, just before we do that, in the helicopter, then apparently there are scenes shot with Rami Malek in the helicopter. We never see that. Would you have liked to have seen a shot that that Safrin is in the helicopter and looking after, like chasing after Bond?
I guess so. I mean,
or do you think it doesn't matter?
I think it's sort of
because in a way it's alluded to. Obviously, you see him in a bit, but you don't see him in that initial bit. Does that matter or not really?
I guess. I mean, it would have been nice for Safrin to have a little bit more screen time, really. So
I guess that's why they didn't, because they just didn't have the time to do that. I suppose.
But apparently it was shot though, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, no, it must have been actually. Yeah. So I wonder why it was
just
on the
pace
cutting
thing,
room floor.
But yeah.
So what do you think once they actually get inside the forest? I like the fact it's like really misty and atmospheric. I really like that. What do you think of this whole bit? Again,
this feels almost horror movie like in a sense. Like this feels different to what we see from Bond before. All that mist, it's very creepy. What I do like is how sort of you almost see Bond revert to his training, and he's very in control, but I don't mind it this time, because I wanted to feel more peril from the car chase, but Bond's tooled up here. He's got a weapon on him, and he's in the forest, and he's using his wits, like the way he pulls that sort of tow cable around and does all the whistling in the misdirection and all that. It's lovely to see Bond really like performing well out in the field like that. Do you know what I mean? He's in control of that. And I do like that. Yeah. And of course you do feel that sense of peril from Madeleine and Mathilde in that little hut.
And that is cool, because when they first see it, there's that nice moment where one of the motorcyclists sort of stops and is about to shoot. You see Bond turn his back to protect Mathilde, which is really nice. And then obviously Madeleine is sort of shoots him from behind. So that's quite cool. They go inside the hut and Bond basically says, right, anyone that comes here, shoot them, except if it's me. So we got that moment, and then it's quite cool. So he goes into the forest and he starts shooting in the air to draw attention, doesn't he? And basically then he sees sort of a motorcyclist come and he does that classic thing. Well, first of all, actually he's got that sort of grenade launcher gun, which he topples one of the Range Rovers,
Yeah.
and then shoots the
That's a
guys
shot,
inside.
isn't it, where it
That's
comes towards the camera.
yeah, that's
great
brilliant.
moment. Yeah.
And then, like you said, he pulls the cable, brings it around the trees, and then it's very much a feel of For Your Eyes Only, you know, with a ski pole with a guy on the motorbike that gets knocked off, and he whistles, and the guy gets knocked off, and he shoots him.
See, why couldn't they do a bit of bow now, now, have a bit of that in the soundtrack, man?
Yeah, that could have been on the Land Cruiser chase, maybe. I love a drive in the country, don't you? So yeah, so that's quite cool. So he does that bit, and then Logan Ash rocks up in his Range Rover, tries to shoot Bond, and Bond is very casual at this moment. Yeah. He's not even running, he's like barely moving, does a little bit of a walk. I thought that was
a bit weird, where bullets are whizzing all around him, and he doesn't even he just strolls along. When he sees the sort of log which he wants to try and entice them to, then he starts running. But that first bit I thought was a bit strange, like he didn't try and take cover. It's almost like he was a bit Terminator-esque, which is a bit strange. But then he obviously gets Logan Ash to drive towards it, to this log. They flip the Range Rover, and it sort of lands on a tree. Logan Ash manages to crawl out, and this is where Bond sort of sees him on the ground, and he's all sort of beaten up and everything like that. And the tree is like cracked, but barely holding it up. Yeah. And then we get that line, you know, you're never going to beat him. Why don't you help me, brother? I had a brother. His name was Felix Leiter.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I really, really like this bit.
Yeah.
How cold, like, the clinical way of how Bond is dispatching the drivers of the cars, like he just literally with the gun, like,
oh, that's a good noise. I like that.
You know what I mean? It's like he's not even paying attention really. He's just like, doof, doof, they're gone. Next car, boom, motorbike, just pops them in the face. Like that's really brutal and great. And this, man, it obviously makes you think of For Your Eyes Only, doesn't it? Having that moment with that, and just. Yeah, there's that moment of satisfaction where it just boom, that the car comes down and crushes him, and it's like, that's real nice, cold, hard.
That's a good way to go, I think. Good way to go. Yeah, I really, really like that.
Yeah, I like that.
So it's a shame now we're talking about it, because this forest scene is really good. I think if they just made a bit more menace and suspense in the previous chase, this whole section would be amazing. But so we cut back to inside the hut. There's a guard that comes and Madeleine shoots him. Now at this point, initially Safin then appears, and I'm like, why doesn't she shoot him? But if I looked closely, and when she shoots the guard, the gun looks as if that was the last bullet. It sort of comes out. So obviously she can't shoot Safin. And then the next thing we know, Bond basically hears a helicopter where he goes to the hut. They're not there. He hears a helicopter taking off, and basically, obviously, he knows that they've been sort of kidnapped and taken away. So then we get to the point where Bond is sort of walking away along that dusty road, and we hear the Aston Martin. This is the DBS Super Allegria, and Nomi's car. I really like this one, and then she does a whole need a ride. Yeah. And Bond sort of tells her then, as they're going, that Safin took Madeleine and Mathilde, and Nomi says she didn't even know that Madeleine had a daughter. But then it's a really nice moment, because she can tell that Bond is distraught. That these people have been kidnapped. Safin's got them, and then she says, Bond mentions about the plane, and she says that she'll go with him. And there's a really, really nice moment where Bond thanks her. Like he's in a really bad place. She recognizes it. Previously, there's been a lot of head-to-head, really been at each other. Here she's saying, no, I'm going to help you, and the way that Bond thanks her, I think that's a really, really nice moment. Nice. Yeah, fantastic. So they get to like the airfield. There's that massive plane, and it is a huge, huge plane. And Bond and Nomi board it, where Q's waiting. And now this bit, I don't know if it's meant to be tongue-in-cheek or not, but it's very, very Mission Impossible. So they've got M on the screen saying, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is like locate Safin, kill Safin, like destroy Heracles, save Madeleine and Mathilde, and stuff like that. Very Mission Impossible. And then it is nice that he tells Bond that he hopes they're there. Obviously, he realizes how close Bond is. And now, what do you think of this next bit? So this is Nomi tells she wants Bond to be designated 007. And
don't like
agrees.
it.
Okay, tell me
really
why, Tommy. Tell me why. Tell me why.
Well, I feel that the recipe here is great. When I got wind that she was actually going to be 007. I thought that's such a great recipe for some back and forth and some tension and some bickering between the two of them and all that kind of stuff.
And up until this point, you've been happy with that? On and off.
It's all right. Yeah, it's all right. I definitely think there could have been a bit more rivalry between them, a bit more banter, Yeah. But I thought what a great recipe that is for like the old sort of retired guy coming back into the service, then the new young gun who's got his number. Like there's so much a recipe for some tussling there. I really hate the fact that she just goes, "Oh, let him have his number back," and it's like, well, they're about to fly into this mission. M wouldn't give a fuck whose number is what. It's just.
I don't think Bond probably would at that point in time.
No, nobody cares. I think what should have happened there is that once he's dead at the end, they have the scene at the end where they're saying a few words or whatever.
Yeah.
Then what should have happened is that he posthumously gets re-given the number 007 and then they retire the number so no other agent will ever have it,
which was mentioned earlier on, wasn't it, about Nomi said to Bond, I thought you probably thought they retired the number, so I think that for me would have that, because that would feel like such a more poignant payoff for that as well. And like I think we've already discussed it on some level, haven't we, where we're like, well, double O's are going to be dying all the time, they have a very short life expectancy, but not this one. Double O's do die all the time, but not this one.
This one. So it's like that's an extra special thing. That for me would be such a more powerful payoff to the end of the film as well. The fact that she just randomly decides that he should get his number back. Meh.
Yeah. I'm with you on this. I think the main reason that she said it is because, she realizes what's happened with Madeleine Mathilde, and she's sort of thinking, okay, he's been through a lot. This is my way of I said I'll go with him. This is my way of kind of trying to G him up a bit maybe for the mission ahead. But I agree, doing it as you suggested would have been a better way. Definitely, actually, really, really would have been. But that being said, I'm not against it as such. Like when I watch it, it doesn't throw me. But I just think your way was a better way of doing it. Very much. But yeah, well, that's all right. Tell purpose away. Okay, so then basically Q then gives out Bond's watch back to him, and he's got the sort of electronic magnetic pulse thing on his watch. Very like obviously Zorin's microchips would be all right, and so would the Tiger helicopter. So there we go. It comes up quite a bit, doesn't it? But I think that's quite cool. It's just like a nice little bit. Plops on the back of the watch, boom, and basically any cameras or locked doors, you use your watch and it'll be good. And then it's quite cool, he gives Nomi the QDAR, which I thought was a very cool name, basically to scan the infrastructure of where they're going, which I think is very, very cool. And then basically as he's going through the little trays to find these gadgets, that little tray pops out with a tea set.
I like that joke.
That was nice. Very, very nice indeed. And then he injects them both. Is it with smart blood? I think it might be with smart blood or some sort of tracking system. I think it is smart blood, and that's very cool. And so they're ready to go. And then they walk to the sort of glider bird thing. He says, "I assume you know how to handle the stealthy bird, or I'm sure you know how the stealthy bird works." Or something like that. I do this little bit. We'll leave that for next week. But this little whole bit does have a Die Another Day feel. Where did you think that as well with the old thing dropping out the plane and going
big time.
So the actual flight and everything we'll leave that for next week. So we've looked at the Norway with a few bits of MI6 involved. What's your overall opinion of those sort of scenes that we've chatted about today?
It's again, we've got some new waters to chart, haven't we? The whole thing with Bond with the child, with his own child and all that kind of stuff. I feel like we've got an okay chase. It's not a bad one, but it's
more menace is what we wanted. More menace
and more peril for Bond there. And I really do like that forest sequence. That's cool. That's awesome. Nicely done. I tell you what's going to be interesting actually is that sort of concept. I was because Dan Gale went to see it.
He really enjoyed it, didn't he?
He did, and he texted me just as he was going in. So I was like, "Oh, good luck, mate.
Oh yeah,
like it."
Oh,
blah, blah, blah.
nice.
And then we had a little back and forth afterwards, and we were talking about this sort of new thing that all the action films do these days, where everybody is kind of like linked together. So it's like Bond's always got an earpiece in,
yeah,
and he's in contact with everybody back at the base at
like
all times.
Yeah, Mission Impossible style as well.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's like I mean, that technology is here now, so that's probably what you would have if you were a 00 and that was all real and you were out on a mission. But it also means it's a bit easy, isn't it? Because Bond is never truly on his own by his own wits. He can always like tap into Q and be like, "What's going on?" Q's got an absolute map of the whole surroundings, and do you know what I mean? It's a bit convenient, isn't it? And I think there's some interesting situations you might lose out on because they fall back on that trope, you know.
Which is why a 60s period set Bond might work. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? We'll
see.
see. So just briefly, the part where he goes to the house and sees Mathilde, and Madeleine says, "She's not yours."
Yeah.
In your mind, do you think he believed her or not?
Yeah, because I believed her on the first viewing. Obviously, I didn't on the second.
No.
But yeah, I'm still not sure about that. Obviously, we're going to talk about this next week. But the reveal that she actually is feels a bit wishy-washy to me, must be said.
But from Bond's perspective, because at the end he says, "Oh, the eyes," and then he says, "I know."
Yeah.
So maybe he did know, but obviously didn't want to put up an argument, or did he just think? Because I'm the same as you. The first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh, okay." That was a curveball sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously everyone in the audience was thinking that, but I think it was quite a clever thing to do that.
Yeah.
Rather than just outright say it was sort of thing. So
big time.
Good stuff. There we go. So next time, this is 2 weeks down. Next week we've got our last two podcast episodes around the actual storyline. So Monday we're going to be looking at Safrin's Island. Okay, so this is where shit gets real, baby.
Yeah, man. It's going to get deep. And then obviously after we finish talking about the film, we're going to be delving into various other No Time to Die related things. We're going to get some of Team JBR back on board for a bit of roundtable discussion. Obviously, we're going to be doing the 90-second reviews eventually as well towards the end of the 30 days. So start thinking about what you're going to say. Don't send them in yet. It's a bit too soon. But start formulating your thoughts. And then we bless
John Ward, who got so excited he already sent in his 90-second review last week.
The reason why I say don't send them in yet is because sometimes some of them slip through the net. It's like wait till we call for them, and then everybody sends them all in at once. Exactly. It's much easier for us to manage them. Otherwise, some might not get lost, and that's obviously not a good thing.
Exactly.
So we definitely want to hear from you, whether it's a good feeling, a bad feeling, or like we always say, somewhere in between.
Exactly.
So I predict the 90-second review episode is going to be a fascinating listen this time.
And I think it's going to be a long one. I think it's going to be, because 90 seconds, like how on earth is anyone going to try and condense their thoughts on this film into that amount of time is crazy. But I am looking forward to it, man. I think they're all going to be No Time to Die, great film, or whatever it was.
Great film of James Bond. I tell you, if there's one man I know who could cram all his thoughts into a 90-second review, it's our very own Jack Lugo.
Oh, Jack Lugo,
I remember his super speedy reviews in the past where it's like, and he just got everything through super smooth. Dobson, he's going to phone up and just be like, oh shit, I didn't like it. I'm going to watch Daylights.
Yeah.
But there we go. All right then. So have a good weekend, everybody. JBL will return on Monday for more No Time to Die action and more fun besides as the 30 days go on. Until then, I've been Tom Sears.
I've been Chris Wright, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you on Monday, everyone.
Bye.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.